The righteous way of living. Upper and lower hand relationship series. The upper hand has an obligation to assist the lower hand at all times, and the lower hand has an obligation to be helped by the upper hand. So the lower hand doesn't need to help the upper hand? Yes, the lower hand shouldn't, and we need to understand this principle well so that we will not have any problems arise within our relationships. Upper hands have an obligation to live for the sake of the below. Otherwise their life will become difficult. Lower hand needs to receive help from the upper hand so that they don't have a difficult time. For example, if the lower hand tells the upper hand about the upper hand's weakness, the lower hand will be penalized later. If the lower hand tries to help the upper hand with the upper hand's weakness, the lower hand will not be able to help the upper hand no matter how hard they try. So because they are the lower hand, they should look at the upper hand's weaknesses and take it as a study. They should tell themselves that I shouldn't do that as an upper hand, but also should not point out these weaknesses. If the lower hand feels bad when the upper hand tells the lower hand about their flaw, the environment in which the upper hand can help the lower hand will decrease. It means that the lower hand won't get any help. The upper hand's role is to try to help the lower hand correctly, but if the lower hand is not humble, the upper hand cannot help them. This is the law of nature. When we are harmed because we have done something wrong. It's just that there is always a reason for being harmed. This is our life. So, if the lower hand interferes with the upper hand's flaw, the lower hand will be penalized later in their life. However, if the upper hand interferes with the lower hand, they will not be harmed. For another example, in a company, if you tell your manager that they have flaws within their personality, you will be penalized. Here is order in society, and when we ignore this order, we will have difficult times. So the lower hand should not point out the upper hand's flaws when they see it? Yes, you shouldn't. Seeing flaws in your upper hand, you should make it your study. The reason the lower hand sees the upper hand's fault is to demonstrate that the lower hand acts in this way in other environments, and the upper hand's flaw is to prove that the lower hand is doing the same wrong thing as the upper hand in a different environment. The lower hand seeing this should study so that she does not live with this bad behavior later. This is so that the lower hand doesn't show similar bad points to other people who are lower than them. The conclusion is that when setting the standard of the relationship between the upper hand and lower hand is not determined by age, but by strength. For example, in a parent-child relationship, is the parent always the upper hand and the child is the lower hand? No matter how smart a child is, if you need help from parents, that gives you the role of the lower hand. Also, will a child be the upper hand if he has more money than their parents? This is not true. If they have money but need to get something from their parents, they are the lower hand. On the other hand, if the parents need money and want to get some of it from their children, parents are the lower hand. So they have to listen to their children to get it. The bottom line is that the relationship of upper hand and lower hand is constantly changing, but if we have some power to help, we are the upper hand, and if we receive the help, we are the lower hand. So far, the concept of the upper hand and lower hand relationship can be summarized as follows. Mutual obligation. In this dynamic, the upper hand has an obligation to assist the lower hand, and the lower hand has an obligation to accept help from the upper hand. It's a reciprocal relationship. No obligation to help back. The lower hand is not obligated to help the upper hand in return. The focus is on receiving assistance when needed. Understanding and accepting weaknesses. The lower hand should not point out the flaws or weaknesses of the upper hand. Instead, they should view these weaknesses as opportunities for self-improvement and personal growth. Maintaining humility. The lower hand should remain humble and open to receiving help. If they become prideful or critical, it can hinder the upper hand's ability to provide assistance. Consequences of interfering with upper hand's flaws. If the lower hand interferes with the flaws of the upper hand, they may face negative consequences in the future. Society's order. Maintaining this order in relationships is important not only for personal growth but also for societal harmony. Relationship determined by strength, not age. The upper hand and lower hand roles are not fixed by age but rather by the ability to provide help. In any relationship, the one who can provide assistance is the upper hand, and the one who needs it is the lower hand. Changing roles. The roles can shift depending on circumstances. Even a child can become the upper hand if they can help their parents when needed. In summary, the upper hand and lower hand relationship is based on mutual support and maintaining humility. It emphasizes personal growth and societal harmony while recognizing that roles can change based on the ability to provide help rather than age or other factors. Thanks for watching.